privacy, or lack of it, has an impact on society as a whole.
Okay. This whole exercise thing is blown completely out of proportion.
Autonomous individuals with
just get on your exercise bike,
amount of
minimum of 5 days a week,
dignity in our
hit it pretty good,
we can operate,
and don't let up on it.
We can deliberate, we can
go for 30, 40, 50 minutes, an hour,
and
whatever you can do, and stick with it.
Things that everybody knows sometimes can result in analytics that create absolutely fundamentally new advances, and in that case began a path where we could go after a heretofore disease and malady with no therapies available at that time. So here we are back again talking of big data all these years. So I'm going to shamelessly, I wasn't going to shamelessly plug, but now I will. So I actually wrote this book with Jonathan Fox, who some of you may know love from Sun Microsystems, who's with me now as our Global Director of Data Privacy at McAfee, and my dad, Tom Finneran, who has been in the data architecture and security field since the 1950s. And that's important because I think big data is the ultimate in getting together artistry, chemistry, law, policy, user, consumerization of data in the truest sense, and I think getting to a better place and not necessarily this Armageddon. So I'm going to shamelessly read you a couple paragraphs that kind of shapes my thinking in this area from the introduction. The world is certainly flat. Everyone said so. The government said so. The church said so. Your wise old aunt and the richest guy in town said so. Everyone. Except a few explorers, dreamers, scientists, artists, and plain-spoken folks who looked out a sky that looked more like a bowl and noticed that the ground and the sky always met for a brief kiss before the observer wandered ever closer and the meeting became elusive once more. And shadows and tides and other indications seemed to suggest that there might be something more than dragons beyond the edge of the world. And so as it turned out, the world was not, in fact, flat. There was a seemingly endless set of new possibilities to discover. Privacy is certainly dead. Everyone said so. Rich people with big boats who sold stuff to the CIA in the 1970s, you know who you are. Founders of important hardware companies said so. He knows who he is. Someone who blogs said so. The government can't make up its mind which person should say so or if the polling numbers look right, but it might say so. Somebody tweeted, even a really old technologist, Vincer, who invented the whole thing, said so. Everyone said privacy was dead, except a few explorers, inventors, philosophers, children, parents, and even government regulators like Joe McNabb, who looked out at a seemingly endless sea of data and still could see how a person can be distinguished from a pile of metadata. This is true for people who wish to decide for themselves the story they wish to tell about themselves and to whom. These people see a different horizon. The privacy engineer sees this horizon where privacy and security combine to create value as a similarly challenging and exciting time for exploration. This is the book for you. So that's how we start off the book, and it really is, I won't shamelessly plug it tonight, but it really is the culmination of 15 years of thinking and partnership with security architects, with our forward is written by an artificial intelligence analytics CEO. So we really do think that, yes, there are more and more identifiable moments that are happening out there, but I also think that we can think more organically. There is a chirality here. Even though we have all the elements for Armageddon, we also have all the elements for doing something that can be incredibly enriching and human serving. So that's my big, we are the world policy statement for Stanford. That's all I got.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Jim, Joan and Michelle, Professor Felton. I'm Mark Schbach. Like as Jim said, I've been a litigator at Ropes & Gray in Boston since 1985. I'm intrigued that we're going to work on even defining big data today. In Boston, we call it large data. Yeah, large data. Actually, the intellectual property connection is really is part of it for me too. Jim and I years ago started off we had a case together where we were working on a trade secret case. It was a great case. It had to do with who invented the pump sneaker, for those of you who remember. But the way the trade secret, there's an aspect of trade secret law that sort of that carries through to this context for me. It's a very fundamental rule that in order to be able to assert rights with respect to a trade secret, you've got to keep it secret. If you don't keep it secret, it's gone, and your rights go with it. Just like data. Once your data is out there, it's gone. And trying to reel back rights is, I think, part of what everybody here is talking about, whether that's even possible. I've been working on data breach and data security cases, like Jim said, ever since Rosenberg served as lead counsel in the TJX case in 2007. It's only 7 years ago, but at least for me, and I think for a lot of people, that really sort of started a lot of attention in this area. It was at the time the largest cyber attack of its kind, and it stayed that way until the Heartland payment systems case came along in 2009. We had the good fortune to work on that case as lead counsel as well, and we at Ropes have advised and represented any number of clients in breach and privacy matters since then, including the criminal intrusions at Sony a couple of years ago, at Nationwide, where a motion to dismiss the class action litigation that followed was granted yesterday for lack of injury under the Clapper case, which I'll talk about later on, probably as well. We worked for, we assisted Genesco and Wyndham, where my colleague Doug Neal is challenging the authority and the theories that are being claimed by Visa in assessing fines against merchants that have been attacked, and by the FTC in its efforts to claim the ability to enforce reasonable security standards in the hotel franchise context. And we're now working on issues for Target as well. So I'm not able to obviously talk about any of the particular client matters in detail, but it's a very interesting time to be here and be able to talk in general about some of the things that are in the news and that have been in the news in the last few years. And so my perspective, my general perspective, is that I do look at big data issues from the perspective of someone in the trenches as a litigator dealing with the cyber attacks against company data, bodies of company data, aggregations of company data. Sometimes even as the attack is still potentially underway, we get called in, and right at the moment when companies are faced with the sudden challenge of dealing with the realities of finding out what's happening, finding out what exact data is at issue, working with law enforcement, and dealing with all of the range of things that happen immediately, notice issues, regulatory inquiries, class action complaints, counterparty claims and obligations, all of which fall around you all at once if you're a company that's been attacked in this fashion, like a ton of bricks, with extreme pressure to act very quickly and also to do it right by all of those various other actors. It's a very, very challenging and interesting task that we've gone through a number of times. And sort of my introductory comment on this is that in the litigation context, which is where I live, the analysis all starts and ends with injury. If any information about an individual is taken or exposed or lost, courts will say, what's the injury?
Just a quick break for a drink break. Be right back.
The decision involving a challenge to FISA provisions involving surveillance that the Supreme Court issued in March of this year. The Supreme Court makes clear that in the federal courts, at least, we're not talking about a risk of injury. We're not talking about the possibility of misuse or not even an objectively reasonable expectation of misuse. Instead, to get into federal court under Article 3 of the Constitution, you need actual injury or injury that is, quote, certainly impending. Just to satisfy Article 3 to get your foot in the door. And then even if you can satisfy that standard, you still need to have enough of an impact, enough a cognizable injury to meet the elements of the cause of action that you're trying to assert, whether it's negligence or breach of contract.
Okay, on this whole exercise thing,
The level of injury that might be
boy, talk about something that's been blown out of proportion.
Protect your staff. That's how it is.
I used to belong to Gold's Gym, went down there every day,
You don't have that injury.
lifted weights, rode the stationary bike,
The facts that you're presenting to the court.
and I went there for a couple of years before one of the guys that was working there actually came over and helped me and showed me
Situation for you
how to lift weights
unless you have an
and how to exercise and how to keep yourself in shape. Now that was back in probably,
companies know
I think 98, 97, 98, 99, ran in there.
The facts
And
whether there's real injury.
he did a good job of teaching me how to lift weights, how to isolate muscle groups and all that sort of thing, and how to actually do it from week to week. So I always remember that. Later, I quit going there for a while. Then I started going to 24-hour fitness. A few years had passed, and by this time, none of the guys that worked there would tell you anything unless you paid them an extra fee. Fortunately, by then, I already had the basics down pretty good. After a while, I quit going to 24-hour fitness because, you know, I couldn't see any good sense of sticking with it because I had my own ideas. So here's my own ideas. I can do all this exercise at home. I don't need to drive down there and spend $40, $50, $60, $80 a month. I do it right here. One of my main tools is the one that I'm on right now. This is an exercise bike. It's got a big resistance wheel in it that's magnetic. So there's really nothing in there to wear out. I got it on sale. I think I paid either $90 or $100 for it, something like that. It's very good. Works great. Now the key to using this exercise bike is right here. Putting time in on it. Right here at 42 minutes. 42 and a half minutes. The second key is right here. Keep your revolutions up to at least 80 a minute. If you can go 90, that's even better. The third thing is do the 220 minus your age times 0.7 to give you your minimum heart rate you need to achieve in order to get some exercise. Let's see here what my heart rate's at.
Addressing the difference in approach as it's applied by regulators. They're acting under statute, but you don't have a body of case law where courts have weighed in and, like I say, validated for
okay, 27 times 4
under that rubric.
is 28 plus 100, 128. I should be hitting quite a lot more than that for my minimum workout, but you know, that's okay. I'm doing 45 minutes today. And let's see, there's 3 things. The fourth thing is to do this a minimum of 5 days a week. Now I have friends, some of them older than me, some of them younger than me, who have all these little, you know, semi-problems. They're overweight. They can't go up a flight of stairs without losing their breath. They call walking the miracle drug. I don't know if you've ever heard that. I used to hear that a lot. People who would go out and walk for 30 minutes or an hour very briskly every day are in really pretty good cardiovascular shape and even muscular shape. And I think that the exercise bike is like walking squared, because I get a lot more exercise on this thing than I do walking. I get a lot more exercise on this thing than I do actually riding a bike, because riding a bike, it's downhill on the way back, you know, it's all coasting.
reach somehow.
So anyway,
You never know about the job offer that doesn't
people
come.
complain, say, oh, I can't exercise, I don't know what to do, I don't have any time,
It's something that doesn't
I
come.
don't know how to do it, it doesn't work.
So the result is that people tend to
Well,
think about this
try an exercise bike.
as in terms of risk.
It's pretty simple.
And
Really?
the risk is really the risk.
Here I am up to 46 and a half minutes.
A situation in which
I'm hitting it at about 80 RPM.
it's believed to exist.
My pulse is up pretty close to where it needs to be.
In which,
I have moderate resistance. You don't want to have too much resistance. It's hard on your knees.
So the way people tend to think about this, and I think it's a reasonable way
You know,
to think in terms
have a
of-
good sweat
and
going.
to think in terms of
And I'm getting some good exercise for myself, and this will help keep you in shape, and it will help keep you healthy.
and bringing on risk,
So for those to say,
environmental risk.
I don't know how to exercise, I can't exercise, it's too much trouble, it never works, and I don't have time.
There are a lot of things you
Well,
can do to inspect the tank to make sure that it's
I have myself parked right now in front of News, C-SPAN, and I have 45 minutes to sit here and do that before I have to get out of
You
here.
never make that risk zero.
Okay?
You want to minimize the risk of what
And it's that simple. It's not difficult.
not have,
So give it a try.
place.
Get on that exercise bike.
Shouldn't have oil tanks ever.
If at first you can only do 5 minutes,
In terms of
do 5 minutes.
risk and exposure.
And then just do 5 minutes every day.
Think about
One day you'll notice you did 6 minutes. Just keep at it. It's not that hard.
To step
It's
back
really quite a
from
simple
military
concept.
Position, perspective. So when we're talking about protecting from harm, what are we trying to protect? And I would suggest that it's not merely a matter of protecting individuals from harms to them by the abuse or use that they didn't want of their information, but there's also a societal dimension to privacy. That respect for individual private method.
It's not that hard. They say, oh, I don't know how to do it. I don't have time. I don't have this or that and the other thing. I can't afford it. Well, the only thing this costs me here is a few calories. So anyway, it's not that big a deal. It's pretty easy to do. So, just pull out the equipment and do it. I think I paid $90 for this thing. It's Sears. So, it's not that hard a deal. That's it.
As merely, not that this is so mere, but as simply an individual's, protecting an individual from harm. So that's one thing that I think we need to bear in mind, that there are societal values and benefits to respecting privacy. But so looking at what is the harm to individuals still. I'm not speaking as a regulator because I don't think our laws, as we've been hearing, or our courts, necessarily have come to conceive of and